press here. We have 9 and 11 JPs here today. I will say Justice Neil Burge, I visited with him via text this morning. He was actually planning on being here today, but they popped a doctor appointment on him, so he can't make it today, but he does plan on joining us at the next regular quorum court meeting, which will be next Tuesday night at the Burdette Courthouse. So he said he's moving in the right direction. He's just got a long road to travel. So he will get there, and he is looking forward to taking back on his responsibilities and job that he does in working with us. So he's really looking forward to that. Cindy, I guess the judge is coming.
He said he was. He texted me a little while ago and asked what time it started.
Do you know if he has anything to bring to us?
Not that, to my knowledge.
The reason I'm asking that, guys, we don't have a whole lot of business today, believe it or not. I'm not saying no, he's gonna leave us alone, I'm just saying.
You
Sure,
may
we
not
find
have
something to talk
business,
about.
Michael, I have
Tell him what day it is.
It's Friday.
Oh, but, I don't know of any appropriations or ordinances or moves to be made by the, to the full court for next week, unless, Peggy, do you have anything? Or Susan, so glad to see you, hon.
Thank you, it's good to be back.
Well, you finally got statements out, so you came to see us again.
Finally, yes.
They
Y'all
look
like
good.
'em?
They look real good.
Good.
I actually paid mine,
Yay.
yeah, so, but no, it was nice to see
Don't
it.
expect mine to work.
Mine either.
It was nice to see a one-page deal where it had everything together.
It was. I still haven't, you
Never
know,
paid a government over.
ticks to work out, but it's doing really well.
I'm hoping that'll start maybe the process of collections. I know at one point, a week or so ago, our, county general balance had gotten down below 200,000, and it was getting a little bit concerning. Today, we're back up a little over 236, 276. So, we're able to make bills. We might make payroll next time. Well, we got a little bit of the general CD fund too. Most of our accounts are in really good shape. We haven't made a formal announcement, but the county has received the first payment on the, American Rescue Plan funds. That was the $7.9 million that we should be receiving over the next 12 months. You know, we created a new account, a new line item and a new account to receive the money into. We did do that, and Peggy, received a check and has got it deposited. 3.9, Peggy, roughly. I didn't even look, it's probably on this. Yep, $3,947,990. Excuse me.
What's the stipulation on what we spend it for?
That was that 151 page, and that's not a joke. It was 151 pages long.
You're dealing with the federal government.
So, and it came with the, I'd call it a warning. It came with a warning that if any, that it will be audited, and if any of it's misspent, falls back on the county to repay it. So it's pretty stringent guidelines.
Just make your
By the
wish
time you
list.
read the guidelines and understand what it is, you won't need the money.
Well, we've got,
And you have to pay a consultant to be able to explain it to you.
we've got about 3 years to come up with a plan, and then we got another year or so after that to actually expend the money.
Okay.
We can start at any time as long as we're within the guidelines, but they really stressed being patient and slow the process of making our plans to make sure that we follow the guidelines as they're written, but also because the guidelines are fluid and ever evolving. And so if you may have a project in mind today.
And then they change the rules.
Yeah, there may be a project in mind today that doesn't qualify, but you give them 6 weeks and it might qualify. So, I mean.
Or vice versa, it might qualify today and then they may change their mind and it not qualify.
Well, I would hope that wouldn't be the case.
You never know.
Judge, we were just talking about the American Rescue Plan money that we've already received, and then the way it was at first explained, it would come in probably two checks. The first one, which we've already received, and then the second one should be within 12 months of receipt of the first one. Now, it could be tomorrow, it could be a year, but we should have it all by then. But what we were talking about was the patience and the stringent guidelines, that 151-page booklet that we initially got, and that they are ever evolving regulations, and that something that we might wanna do today that's restricted might be approved 6 weeks from now if we don't get in a hurry. We just take our time and develop our plans about it. So,
I think that's a wise decision, and I'll be attending a meeting, I think it's Wednesday, over that.
good. With some of the other counties?
With the county judges conference is in Jonesboro.
Perfect.
And, I believe her name is Miss Lindsay Holloman, which is, you know, that's kind of their lead on, advising about those rules. She'll be giving our talk over that.
She was the one in that Zoom meeting that
She
was doing all
was?
the talking.
Yes,
Yeah, seemed to know her stuff.
yes.
But it's exciting that we're on the front end of this, and we just wanna do it right and take our time.
I think we'd probably be wise if we was a year out before we, got anywhere close to commit to anything.
Yeah. I'd asked everybody else, do you have any business that you know that we need to take care of today to move to the court Tuesday?
I don't, I've got some, I'd hope to have some today, but as it turns out, I don't have all the figures in. We've got 2 offices that's gonna be making a request. One is, the Veterans Office, which we've got a new VSO that's got requests that came down through the, regional director of the equipment that he would need, and then, a request that'll be coming from the county judge's office over, Mr. Henry's, taking of that position, because Mr. Savage is leaving.
I did introduce,
I'm glad you did, thank you.
well, I wasn't sure if you'd come in that. I know most of us here from Liable at least will know Tom, but particularly in the south end, they may or may not have recognized him. And his work, you know, I remember when Tom was covering us as a reporter not too long ago, a couple of years ago or something. I told him the only gripe I had with him was he was too dang accurate. He would write exactly what I said, and sometimes that kind of stung.
He certainly dots his i's and crosses his t's.
Absolutely, so we're glad to have him on board, and glad to be working with him. And looking at the year-to-date expense percentages, everybody should have received their emails, whether you wanted to print them all out or not. We're pretty much tracking on progress. Kelly, have y'all managed to transport everything over from the, I didn't think it looked like it all had been
No,
moved.
it's probably gonna take the next 6 months, I would think.
To actually get it fully
Yes.
transferred and ported over in regards to the finances and all?
Well, that would be payroll and AP, all of it. I would say it's gonna take 6 months.
Well, that's part of that extension that we approved last month. Anything that you're aware of that we need to be acting on or doing or talking about? Well, first, somebody that's not here, we're gonna talk about it.
Yeah. No, there's really not anything much to bring this month. I don't have anything.
I noticed nothing, Judge, we reported that we've got 236,000 and change in the county general account. We do have that 3.9 million, 3,947,990 in the rescue plan account. Your county road fund has a little over 1.8 million, in its CD. Solid waste a little over $1 million. Neil is planning on, he wanted to come today and end up with a doctor appointment. He'll start coming back to meetings next Tuesday night.
Well, that'd be great. I spoke with him earlier, I think it was last week, and, that was another issue I was gonna bring to the, finance committee is, and I think probably solid waste needs to meet first, but going in and establishing some of those, funds and funding the.
Like a reserve fund like you've discussed before?
Well, this one would be to, establish a fund that would be able to pay cash for the next, Class 1 sale that we will be going into, as well as maybe some post-closure, funding that we may need from when we leave that area that we're in right now. Not the post-closure that we do with the state, but just the money that we might need in order to take care of it before it's officially closed.
Yeah, hopefully he'll be back next week. He's not healed, but
Yeah.
he is on the path. Feeling better, got a long ways to go down the road, but he's ready, anxious to get back. And
I could tell that he was, and, we'll catch back up on our, Excel spreadsheets with the landfill. From what I could tell, and like I said, we don't have all the numbers yet, the two different accounting, procedures aren't reconciling right now, but I could see well enough that we're in good shape as far as our expenditures.
yeah, everything's looking good. The energy and I was kidding Molly a while ago, y'all, but the energy and property, Molly had told me earlier that didn't have any additional appropriations to make, Miss Molly?
No, pretty much the C&I bill has been submitted. There was a couple of other expenditures, that have come in, but it still leaves right at $800,000 appropriated. And we were having trouble kind of coordinating with Aaron. He will be here tomorrow, but it's after, finance today, so we'll try to get back on our regular schedule, in 2 weeks. So,
And did you say 2 weeks?
but I think he's been coming every 2 weeks,
Right.
isn't that right? So we'll try to have a committee meeting in 2 weeks.
Yeah, but he will be here tomorrow.
Right, yes, he'll be here tomorrow, and I think Rick is for sure gonna be at that meeting tomorrow, so I will not be able to attend, I don't think, maybe. It all depends on how that bridge at Memphis cooperates, so I'm gonna say that probably not. Anyway, I did mention, just while I'm talking here, that, Aaron did let me know in an email today that all the copper has been returned to the county, so, anybody, so. Other than that, that's about it.
Judge, anything else we just really don't have a whole lot today. I know you're aching, but
I got a question.
he's got an itch. Come on.
Where are we with revenue for the insurance payback?
Now, I guess explain what you're asking.
Okay. Months ago, we talked about trying to find out the outstanding balance that was owed, that the insurance did not pay. And we were gonna negotiate a settlement with those people. And how many days have we been since we attempted that?
Well, basically Kelly and her office have been calling, and they ran into a few problems. Some of these providers are trying to renegotiate with us, and after that, we put it on hold. We've actually been trying to discuss with Jeremy Thomas about whether Performance Health would be willing to administer it still if we were to just pay them a flat sum and then them send the checks out to the providers. So that's the problem. They're trying
What
to.
percentage are we talking about, or do we know? Has everybody we've talked to been willing to accept a percentage of outstanding debt to end this thing?
Well, I mean, most of them have been willing to take that negotiated price we discussed, the settlement.
Right.
It was like 658. I don't know if they didn't call, you didn't call all of them, did you?
No, we haven't spoken to all of them, but most of them are agreed.
But one of them did, like I said, try to renegotiate. And I spoke with Jeremy Thomas about that, and he said he can't understand why they would want to renegotiate.
Well, we're looking at this in June, and we talked about this in January, and we've still got people hung out to dry.
Yeah.
Now, are we gonna decide, when we do this, I know there's outstanding balances, but what about the money that some of our employees have paid already? Are we gonna see that they get their money back?
We pretty much assured them that yes, if they kept accurate records,
I just
and
wonder what
give
it
us
takes to
receipts.
expedite.
If they have accurate records.
We just, we can't take just a word, but we
Oh, I
asked them to
understand.
please
I
keep
understand.
receipts and
The people I've talked to understand
document.
that too.
Yeah.
You know, it's not hard to I don't know if anybody pays cash anymore, except they don't at my place anyway, so I would think
tried
they'd had a record. But ask him what it cost him when I saw him this weekend, ask him what he paid.
But like I said, it's turning into a nightmare for the finance department, and that's why we're trying to seek out this other route to get
Okay,
this paid.
let me ask you a question. If the insurance company, that's who you're talking about, that we pay initially?
No.
No, Performance Health was the original third-party administrator.
Okay.
And the way I understand it, they are no longer that administrator. And last I talked to Jeremy Thomas, they were going to try and contact the current administrator. They didn't give me a company name or
Okay.
anything.
If they don't do that, I have a lady that's made a living for 30 years in collections. She doesn't do it for hospitals, but she's done it for doctors. And she's willing to help us. And, I mean.
So what could she do for us? Explain that to him, I know.
Here's what she would do. She would take, and she's got a list of employees, okay? And gonna take that, and ought to be able to find out from our primary insurer in 2019, what's been paid and what ain't been paid. Now, once we establish that, now we've got a figure. And then we approach the people that have outstanding balances for 60% of what we decide to pay. But let me throw a dart at lawyers just a minute. Work by the hour and nothing gets done, you know? How many times have you seen a case go 3, 6, 9, 12 months and 30 minutes before court is settled? And I think maybe that sometimes attorneys are too busy to do that. Why can't we go through, and again, that's not personal, I'm just talking about the way things are. If we could get through to someone, your people or the lady I've talked to, and she's a friend of mine, but she may not be if she gets involved in this, and see if we can't expedite paying this off. These kids are still taking a beating.
Well, I
I
know
know we have a figure, don't we?
the county used to hire Jim for collections work. And I have that whole file, if y'all want to bring
Okay.
that up here to see how it used to work.
When you say hire them for collection work, are you talking about somebody to negotiate? But we don't pay.
I hired him, put him on a per diem basis of each, or I mean, it's a per, collection basis, for each time he collected on a debt, he got a cut of it, and he was done so, but they just
But
put all.
I'm trying to look at a way to expedite, because you don't know how to do it, and I don't know how to do it. You know, and to be honest, I
This is
say,
all on
I'm trying to hire somebody to expedite it, because that's hard for you to know and me to know either, what this is about. So we need somebody in the middle that knows about collections and payments to help us get this thing resolved.
I think the arbitration agreement though is tying our hands a little bit, right? Because we're still under negotiation.
We are in
with
an arbitration
Yeah,
agreement.
yeah. And to answer Molly's question, we did have that, 1.4 million total figure, and the negotiated amount was 658,000.
That's about all.
But, here's the thing, I lost my train of thought, sorry.
If it doesn't hurt
Trying
our
to keep all the
negotiation with Gerber, why would we not do it, or why would it hurt our negotiation with Gerber?
Well, I think that's where Jeremy said that it would if.
If one person wouldn't accept it, then we shouldn't pay
Well,
any of
and
it.
see, the last time I
They
spoke with
were
him, he
going-
said the opposite of that. So,
Well-
maybe something has changed.
Well, here's the deal with that too. If they got somebody that we owe money to, they're not gonna accept it. As far as I'm concerned, they're on their own.
Oh, I got my train of thought back. Kelly and, finance department, when they were making these calls, one of the providers said that, they had another outstanding debt that was not included in that total.
Why don't they tell somebody?
Exactly. And I called Jeremy Thomas about that. I said, we need an accurate figure. This figure you sent us is not accurate. And that was the last time I spoke with him. Like I said, I called him last week. I told Kelly that yesterday. And I'm waiting on a return call. He's supposed to be speaking with Performance Health's attorneys so they can get all that information together for us.
There we go with that.
Exactly.
There we
The
go.
question there would be, did they file with the insurance in a timely manner? Because
Yeah.
I
Yes.
know if they don't file within a year, they can't file at all, and then
See,
they
that
can't
was
come
his
back.
question too.
They can't come back and collect from you either.
They sent proof of where they sent the claim in. They sent the proof, they faxed the proof to me of where they sent the claim in.
They claimed it wasn't included in the.
In the list.
But it was not included on our list.
I had criminal court with Jeremy Barnes, and they relayed a message.
Date of service.
I mean,
He
they got
called me.
claims from 20.
I called him last
Give
week,
the
but I
employees
didn't
the
get a
money
response.
to
Is that
pay
right?
their bill.
Well, they
They
say
sent it
they
to
sent
them
in,
once,
but
and we
the
settle,
insurance says
keep it.
You come
They've
out
not
with
received.
658,000, can we go ahead and
I'm
pay
just
it?
wondering if
Well,
you wait that long.
Give the county, we
Well,
give
give them
Okay, so
phone.
county
no.
employees the money to let them pay
After a
their
year.
bills.
What if they didn't pay it?
Exactly.
Then
That's
it's
on
on our
them.
list. Then I'm with Toby, then it's on them.
Then it would be on them.
Molly just asked, could we give the employees the money to pay their own bills with,
Without the county you see what I'm saying?
without the county doing it?
So,
But
it's not an so would that, they
The,
wouldn't
the
get
problem you
discount.
got there is, will they pay the bill when they get the money?
Well, that's,
Right, but then that's on them.
that's kind of their deal, so, I mean,
I mean, if we've
I
signed
hate
off
for
on
us to
it.
I
take
mean,
our
they
money and
should-
give it to somebody to spend it for something else.
They should have an
Medicare used to do
ELD
that.
Yeah.
for that claim, and it would tell them, you know, this is what was billed, this was your discount, this is what is owed. And all they have to do is provide the provider with a copy of that ELD and pay the amount it says they owe. And you're right, it would be on the employee, but, you know, there again, we need to ask the question, if we do that, is it gonna come back, are we gonna be able to collect our money back? I would think yes, but I want an attorney to answer that question.
let me pose something to you right quick, and it's just gonna be a straw poll without a formal vote or commitment from anybody, but if we had an honest negotiated amount from each of the providers and the total was 658,000, and that's from the providers, and we're still in the arbitration process with Gerber, where Gerber should pay the 658,000, and we're still doing that, but we've got an honest number of 658,000. Might take 6 months, might take a year for the arbitration process to play itself out to where Gerber pays. But how many of you, with just a show of a finger, would be willing for the county to pay the 658,000 up front and put that behind it and wait on the negotiated amount?
as long as it doesn't fall, as long as
As long,
it,
yeah, there's some kind of sign off on that we've paid it and
it's not gonna bother.
whatever that legal form is, that they can't come back and say that we owe more.
Yeah, letter of release.
Yes, thank
What we
you.
want to do is get a release from them, and we also want to get, when we do that, we want that release to go straight to the arbitration, so they understand they pay the county, nobody else.
Well, that's true too.
Because if, let's say we decided we were gonna give it to the employees to pay. The employee decided, I'm just gonna take the money and spend it, didn't pay their bill. And they're still expecting when arbitration comes through, that bill's gonna get paid. And it has to be understood, no, we paid out that 650,000. It's reimbursed to the county and to the county only.
My goal with that question was just trying to give the employees that are in such dire need immediate relief.
Right.
Right.
You know,
Right.
get this off their back because it's not fair to them. Judge, you care to weigh in? You don't have to, but would you care to weigh in?
If we did it with 658,000 and we were given the advice from our attorneys that's working on that, it wouldn't affect the outcome of the arbitration, then I certainly would think that we should take care of their bills. And I think probably the surest way to do that is to send the check to the vendor or the medical provider and it be over with.
I agree.
I agree
I
too.
agree.
That's
And
what
then, and what about Dr. Cullom's woman, maybe she could chime in and help write the checks or something.
Or make
she
the
knows
calls.
what she's doing.
Yeah, I think that is part of the delay issue is that Kelly and them have enough work in their office already, especially with the software switch. And, I mean, there's just not enough hours in the day for them to make those phone calls, so a third party might actually help get that
That's what I'm
expedited.
trying to do, is get a third party that'll take this over and take it
It's
off
their
of
only
her.
project, that's their focus.
And somebody that's done this before.
Right.
And if
They know
there's
how to make those
somebody
phone
out
calls.
there who says, no, we
She's
want
good.
more money because you're not getting it from
They
the
get nothing.
negotiate, then they don't get anything.
Right.
They
I
don't
agree
write
with
that
you.
check.
Just
Right, then they move on to the next person.
Is that what you're running into? You have people that say, well, no, we're,
We've only had a couple that have said no. And then we did have one that tried to renegotiate and get more, but most of the people are accepting it, but we're just running into, well, we show that we have this claim and it's not on your list, and, or some of the employees are turning bills in to us that aren't on that list, so we don't feel like it's a complete, good, solid number yet.
See, that's what I spoke.
And it can always, it like, there's a lot of different reasons that it could change, like Rick said, if the insurance companies went back and rebuild late or whatever, I don't think you're ever gonna have a non-moving target as far as that figure is concerned. But I definitely agree, but now we need to make sure with Jeremy, cause Jeremy originally said, if they
That's
wanna
right.
negotiate, we didn't need to pay any, but I would say at this point in time, we don't negotiate with anyone. This is what the thing is, this is what we're gonna pay now, if you wanna negotiate, you're gonna have to wait for the arbitration to complete. That would be my
I agree
solution.
with that, I agree with
I
that.
do as well.
People that don't go with what we're willing to pay, they're on.
Bird in
their own.
hand.
That's right.
I don't really think we have that many that we haven't contacted. We have some, but we don't really have that many that we
Do you
haven't
have any idea
contacted.
how many we're lacking?
No,
Cause we split them up between all of us back there and we faxed them, you know, that's how we did it. We decided to send a fax cover sheet. And we do have some that we have not heard anything from.
So the majority of what you contacted, you got written proof that they said yes. They would accept the negotiating.
I don't know if it's the majority of them, I mean,
Well, the
I
majority
started
of
putting
the
it on a
ones that you have
spreadsheet, what we
contacted.
heard, what we heard back, I have a spreadsheet, what we heard back from. The one that wanted to do the negotiations, that was quite a few of them on that one provider. But
I
we do
would-
have some that we haven't heard anything from.
I would say the ones that they've got a yes from.
That's what I was thinking.
There's a amount.
That's
I'll
exactly
make-
right. They should have responded in the fax, that's what I was gonna say,
Yes,
start
I
with
think
the
we
ones that
should have
responded.
They want their money too, I mean, I know
Set
that
something up.
we said it, you know, from the beginning, we can't do it, you know, unless everybody says yes, but those people that did say yes, they want their money, I mean, they're already calling back.
Well,
I mean,
You know,
because
that's
we-
the
my
part I don't
understanding, he's
understand,
just,
that if-
he just signed on, he's
If,
not going
if
to.
the, if
We're
the
6
patient
months in.
can pay theirs and still get reimbursed by the, you know, when the arbitration is over, then I don't see what matters if it's the county that does it for them.
I think that we've been told that it wouldn't jeopardize us.
And I think if we got rid of half of them, I think that's half that we get out of the way. And
I
not that,
agree
but
with that.
the employees get help and.
But at least the employees will see we're trying, and if the
Right.
provider won't negotiate with us, then it's on the provider.
And if we're looking for someone that's professional that might be able to do it, if Dr. Cullom's, contact is not able, or for whatever reason, maybe we need to check with the hospital and see if they're agreed, or maybe one of their former employees that could take that one back up.
I definitely think we need to get a firm answer, because I know you said January, but we've really been at this quite a bit longer than January.
Last year.
You know, we
Yeah.
were even talking about paying them before the first of the year, and every time we've talked about going ahead and paying these bills, there's always been something that's come up to where they've said, don't do it. So, we need a firm answer.
And the truth of the matter is, I'm gonna be one sided. Even if we pay $658,000 and lose, we're still doing the right thing by our employees.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
We definitely need to have some sort of written release though, for when they receive that payment, that they can't jack, no take back, you know, it's over.
Yeah, they,
Got the start time and finish time.
Right.
We negotiate,
Right.
here we are.
Right.
Okay, we're gonna start a process. Do we want, we're gonna push it. I mean, we've been
And we have
wanting
been
this
at,
for
yeah, we really
years.
have.
It needs to be
I
one
mean,
per-
we
and
have been-
I think it would be helpful if it was one person that was their focus and that was their project, cause I think we're getting caught in a lot of different things where we have to wait on Jeremy's time, and then somebody's gotta call him back, and then when he's got time to call, the person who called him doesn't have time, and that might
It's
solve some of those
constant
problems,
back and
if one
forth.
person was,
What it's been.
let me say it this way, if we have got facts proof, somebody said yes, we pay them and we send it directly to them. If they wanted to negotiate or they said no, then we turn it over and let Dr. Cullom's person work on those. That way we're cutting her workload.
that's true.
to
That's
begin
good.
with.
That's true.
So who's gonna put together the list of the people that have agreed?
He's
Already
already
got
got
it.
it.
Yeah.
We got it.
It's got a
You already
spreadsheet.
got
All right,
1,200
so-
names on it.
Judge, you had a point you wanna weigh back
Well,
in?
yeah, I think we should establish a fund in the treasurer's office, and if it's $658,000 even, I think that's what we should fund it for. We'll pay it out of that account, and we'll reconcile at the end. We should be able to track everything.
How do y'all feel?
Where do we have that money to put into that fund from?
We have, well,
Just
you look at county general, we've got,
200K
I
in
thought we had
county
money
general.
reserved.
well, no, we've got a little more.
Okay, so there is a reserve, so there's like a CD reserve, or reserve
Yes.
somewhere, okay.
It would come out of our CD reserves
Okay.
to be replaced when the arbitration process
Gotcha.
took place. It will not hurt the county if we pay that $658,000.
Yeah, and I think that's the right thing to do, but we need to make sure that we have whatever legal document from our attorney, whatever goes with that check, whatever form needs to go with it.
And from Jeremy and from
Right.
Performance
Yeah.
Health, that this is
Right.
not gonna affect our
And if
arbitration.
you have a memo line on the account,
I'm
on
gonna
that
leave the
check,
meeting, I'll call them
put
again,
in
see what
there,
it says.
account paid
Let's get
in full.
it, let's get it.
Right.
Yeah.
I think you
No
just
re-
call
no
take
recourse.
Working
hierarchy
with-
and
I
have
came from a
Jacob,
common sense standpoint, understand.
be our first contact and let him run everything through Jeremy, since Jeremy's on the front
They
lines.
got a contract.
And let that be
I'm just, I'm
I
not
agree.
really part.
I'll see
Yeah.
him tomorrow.
You can't just be helter skelter.
Yeah.
If he's free
And
tomorrow.
Jacob will be responsible for everything, and then his chain of command will be through Jeremy.
If he's free next Tuesday evening, y'all want to see if you can just make a meeting?
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Okay.
Please. All right, do y'all wanna go ahead and establish a fund today?
Yeah.
Yes, let's settle the budget.
Thinking how big a deal is if we establish a fund, say we put $658,000 in a new line item, do you have to take money out of CDs if we're not expending right now?
You got me, I don't know, I wouldn't think
Do
so.
you want to establish a fund or a line item? What do you want to do?
I'm not a bookkeeper.
We're gonna start making checks pretty soon.
I would think you would do it,
So, how do you wanna handle it?
Just ask you.
Well, would it be more appropriate to put it under a line item and then, reimbursing that line item as we need to, or would it be better to put it in a fund and have the actual money there and then debit that fund? Which way would the auditors prefer, I guess is the right question. Or should we call the auditors prior to this?
Maybe we should check with them, cause I mean, this is something a little out of the ordinary, I would say.
Okay, let's check with auditors.
That's the only regulatory agency that I can see of.
That's the only one we gotta keep happy.
Yeah.
But you could go ahead and approve setting something up now, couldn't you?
We can
And then it just
establish a
doesn't
line
happen
item.
until
Yes.
later on.
I don't think so.
I mean,
It's not a big deal to do a line item, but if we establish a fund, we're really supposed to do that through, quorum court and stuff like that, to establish a new fund. So, but I mean, I can check with them, we can still do that Tuesday night if we, want to.
So
Would you mind checking with them and seeing what the proper way to handle this is, tell them what we're doing and, okay. All right, now then, we're gonna establish money. We're gonna dedicate money to this. We're gonna get ready to write checks. Do we wanna go ahead and work through Jacob? And then, who's gonna submit the amounts? Jacob, you gonna submit the amounts that have been approved, or?
I can get with finance and get those, sure.
Okay. And so if we get a negotiated amount for so much on the dollar, that's been acceptable to everybody, I think it's been what, 60 cents on the dollar?
That's right.
Has that been right? We've been using 60 cents on the dollar?
And if he needs help with that, because that's not really his area of expertise, then we can get him to help to get it done. You know
So,
what I'm saying?
Judge, Jeremy, excuse me, Jacob will, submit, individual bills to finance department for payment based on that negotiated 60%, 60 cents on the dollar, and return for a letter of release that's it.
Yeah, okay.
And we can start that process immediately, and then when we get to the ones that he hasn't, or we don't have a negotiated amount from, then possibly we can talk to him.
Go back through.
But let's go down and see how far down we get, how's that? Is that a
Anything I
process?
do
I
with
think that's
stuff,
fine,
right
and
now
then,
we're doing
That's
and
fine,
then,
I agree with you.
perhaps before we leave this meeting, we might want to, as Justice Cullom was saying, if we want to, at least pass off on the fact that we may have to pay someone, in this process. And not have to wait till next month. Do we want to?
We can do that.
Go there right now? And
Sure.
I don't think it would be a tremendous amount of money.
Said your lady you do it?
I hate to say that, last told me she'd do it for nothing to help us out. I told her that wouldn't work, I expected something.
I know who you're talking about, she's a good lady, ain't she?
We can just do that with a resolution, can't we, for the moment, and fund it later?
I think that's very appropriate.
So moved.
Okay, Okay, so we got a motion to, allow, I don't know, it's not allowing the justice of the peace. Where do we wanna run that, through your office, or the finance office, or
Well, you talking about run the,
or the Dr. Cullom's person if we end up having?
run it through finance?
Okay. Then we allow Ms. Peggy to, negotiate or work with,
I'll get her on the
a
phone.
collection agency, a collection
And we'll
person.
talk, and I'll call you, and we'll get together about what we wanna do. She's more than.
Is any of this
one,
making
she's willing to
sense?
sit.
Can you put us a resolution kinda together to pass Tuesday night?
We're just creating a position right now, right?
Yeah, we're just
The
creating a
resolution is
position,
creating
a potential position.
And establishing a line item or
No,
some
I'm not
vehicle
built
that
right.
would let us,
When she just
Hey,
girls,
reconcile
Hey,
the money.
when she just girls for her time. I'm saying I can't feel it, so it was just.
We don't have to necessarily
Yeah.
appropriate right now.
And we can make that contract labor so that,
There you
That
go.
way it doesn't have to go to person.
Yeah, that's what I guess
Yeah,
that's
I
what
would say that's
I was,
Good deal. So I feel like this is probably the most solid progress we've actually taken. I'm glad you're here today, appreciate it.
Like I said, it's just been back and forth constantly, and it's just 7
You-
months of back and forth.
You have been put in a position to do something that nobody knows how to do.
It really has been
You've
working.
got to go through people that do this for a living. It's an impossibility for him or her or anybody sitting at this table to know what it takes to go through billing in the medical profession. I'm not an expert, but I'm an expert at getting beat, so I can help you.
Counselor, do you have any suggestions regarding all of this that we're talking about? Input?
No, not at all. Let me get with Jeremy tomorrow and make sure. My only concern is just if we start collecting on that debt and resolving some of it, that it does come into arbitration, and I don't even know how it would mess it up, but I'm just going off what Jeremy said before. So I just want final confirmation it doesn't, and after that, I think it's good to contract it out.
That's a good point.
We don't
Tell
tell-
the arbitrators, they won't know that we've
We
already.
don't tell them, how would they know
Who?
that we paid it?
Arbitrators.
Well,
My question is, why is that even relevant?
Your only
Yeah.
problem,
Well,
your
it's
only
always-
problem
because they're
might
always
be
looking
is
for
the
a reason.
arbitrators may look at them and say, you have to pay these claims. So they might turn around and write checks for those claims that we've already paid to those individuals. Whereas it might,
Yeah.
it should be written to, we should provide a list, and those claims should be paid to the county, and let them handle the ones that.
Right.
would be
And I think
paid.
that-
Depending on how it was pled
Yeah.
in the initial suit, if we pay out these individual claims and they're made whole, then that would technically make those injuries moot, just legally speaking, even though that debt's still existing, it's just changed hands. I would just worry an arbitrator would see that, like, oh, no, y'all don't have an injury anymore, it's done. Just be,
Well, I
They have to
don't
read
That's where
understand.
Jeremy was, the last,
That's-
that's,
yeah,
that's where we
Jeremy was
were
coming
before
from.
January, like when we were in November, because we were going to take money and just pay it and just be done with it, and he said no.
It's the
Well,
unknown.
I don't understand if they've got, and I'm not a lawyer, if they've got a contractual obligation that they've not fulfilled, and we as employers pick up the bill for our employees, they've still got a contractual obligation to the employee, and us too, because we took those people's money. You know,
Mhm.
but in
So-
good faith, we took their money, and then we did not do
Right.
what we said we were gonna do.
But I think that goes back to what Rick's saying though, is their contractual obligation was to write a check to these medical providers. And if
Right.
that arbitration says, okay, you have to fulfill your contractual agreement, and they write a check to these medical providers, then technically those employees are gonna be the ones that are probably gonna get the refund, and then it comes back, it should come back to the county.
Had to make that right. So 100 years ago, Medicare said if you did not accept our fee schedule, you could charge the patient what you want to, and you're gonna pay so much. But some of us were so smart, we said, okay. Then I had patients that didn't understand that, and when they came to the office every time they saw me, they got a check in the mail, so they just came more often. I never received a check.
That's really bad.
There you go, so it
That's
can
a true
happen, so
story.
you see how it can, how it.
Y'all, Jacob's got some.
oh, I was just, when you're in arbitration, the whole point is just negotiate a number. You're punting on, no, we wronged you, let's figure out what number we can pay out. If we pay out, those medical providers could say, oh, well, that 680,000 has now gone down to 300,000. Just because in terms of how it's split, if we start paying out to those certain people, then those claims are made whole, and we can't bring an arbitration, oh, but the county's still on the hook for that, cause they're not concerned with that. So that would be my only concern, that might be a non-issue, cause you also don't have a bunch of the constraining legal rules that are in a federal court proceeding in arbitration.
I come back to the contract obligation that they signed should protect us. I'm not a lawyer, but I mean.
No, I agree, but I
You
just,
know, our contract obligation.
I don't know anything
protect
about the
us.
case.
Regardless, if we go to arbitration and get nothing,
They owe it, you can prove
we
it, you
owe
owe it, but you
the
can't prove
money
it.
to those employees that we pay them.
And
And part of the issue is too, the employees didn't actually pay the insurance premium, the county paid it.
That's right.
Yeah, but that was part of the perk.
That is part of their perk, but it's still, the county is the one that paid the premium, but we're paying it for the employees, so they're gonna turn around and pay that medical
Now,
premium.
let me ask you a
Or
question.
part of their salary.
When you paid that to the employee, wasn't that taxable income to them?
No.
No.
It was not? All right, next question. We used to give large bonuses. And then when we started paying their insurance, I don't know, I wasn't here. Did we decrease the bonus to help cover what they paid? So that was misinformation I got.
Not that I'm aware of.
No,
I've
we
never-
did not.
They get bonuses when they couldn't give raises.
You know, as a matter of fact, the idea has been floated, and I still think it's a good idea, that we set an amount we would pay on their insurance, leave the rest of it to the employees, and take what we have not given them they're not paying theirs, and raise their salaries so that they pay it, go on a cafeteria plan so that they get a pre-tax on it.
And I think you're right, because some of them, it don't see the money, don't understand the perk.
Exactly.
I would agree.
And-
That's 100%.
And if you do that, and they're seeing, they're getting a raise that covers it, and they're actually gonna keep part of it because it's pre-tax. And then they start to understand, hey, insurance is expensive.
Yes, sir.
Because my employer's paying so much of it. Whereas right now, I hear this all the time, and I understand that, yes, some of our employees are underpaid, even according to our pay scale. But if you start to pay them, then they're responsible, and let's be truthful, some of them will say, hey, I don't want the insurance. If I'm gonna have to pay that, but I'm out of this raise, I don't want it. That's their choice.
I agree.
But don't come back crying when you have medical.
But on the other side of that, we should quit premium shopping and start buying real good insurance so that we get dollar for dollar what we put in. Because if you buy the cheapest insurance premium program, bingo, you're gonna get burned every.
I don't think
I
we do
don't think
that
they
at
really
all.
did that last year. I mean, maybe once upon a time years ago, but I think they've already corrected that mostly.
We have went with quality insurance companies the past 2 years, and they're both recommended by Stevens. And I think that we should continue that.
Gosh,
Staying with
let's go back
Stevens'
to what we did in
recommendation.
19 or
Right,
one year
I did
before.
not want to go, and, you know, when I'll sit
You know
here and
what I'm
tell you,
talking
we
about.
were never told that was self-funded.
It got on me about
Never
big
told that
bad
to me.
too.
But we learned a valuable lesson.
Well, and what they sold it with the thought that this is how many counties we represent. And so you think, well, if you represent 45 counties, how many, you know.
Okay, so where
Jacob,
we're at.
one last
Yeah.
question, Jacob, is it possible when we pay these claims also to have the employees sign something saying if for some reason
You do
they get a refund, that they owe that back to the county?
Yeah, because the alternative would be we do a subrogation claim against them, get the money back, because they get double paid on it.
So that way, if that happens in arbitration, we've already kinda got something in writing saying that the employee does owe us back if that claim got paid twice.
I have plenty of those already, that just gonna change the names on it, but I was waiting for it to go.
Salary.
Okay, guys, so we have a meeting next Tuesday night. He's gonna see Mr. Thomas in between. And is it okay if we just task him with working with Mr. Thomas, explaining what we're trying to do, and then give us a directed guideline about how to go about this next Tuesday night? And we don't make any payments before next Tuesday night, but we put everything in place where we can start under his and Mr. Thomas's guidelines.
Okay. So,
Is that okay?
think that most of the insurance
I was
companies.
gonna say, I'm not on it, we've kind of digressed into an insurance company meeting, I'm not on either committee.
I know, well, I'm not either, well, I'm on this one.
My fault. My fault.
But at least we're making forward, and we are spending money, so, and we got 8 out of 11 of us here. So, as long as we're all in agreement and working for the benefit of the employee, I think we're going in the right direction. Judge, one last thought?
Well, I would encourage Jacob to go ahead and start a file on it, these questions that we, seems like answering or asking over and over, if we could maybe, get it in the form of emails that, yes, it's my opinion that going this route is, and then however we need to back it up, and as we get these questions, we could funnel them through Jacob could take them through Jeremy, and we'd have all that stuff on paper,
I agree with that.
answers the question.
And honestly, I would, Jeremy's just our representative, with the other
That's right.
attorneys. It would be nice if he would contact the lead attorneys in this to make sure.
Something I'd like to add, Jeremy told me this several months ago. We are the only county or company involved in this arbitration, even considered paying. So we need to be thankful we're in a position to pay these claims for our employees.
We're not looking after us, we're looking at the people, we
Exactly.
feel the same way.
Yeah, we got 9 other counties that's not doing what we're trying to do.
Exactly.
And I'll reiterate what I said earlier.
Worst case scenario.
If we pay it, and they say, well, just because you settled it, we're not gonna pay you, you just take that loss. We've done the right thing by our employees. I don't want to,
Well, I'm with you, I feel like if this knocks us out of arbitration, we've still done the right thing.
Jacob, thoughts?
None.
You gonna be ready for us Tuesday night?
I'll be ready.
This insurance committee meeting is over, so.
Now we're gonna.
Do we need to
How
mark
much would you
that
pay
with
me
the
to
book?
stay home?